The United Nations are some pieces of shit, asshole, fucking sons of bitches. Talk about some motherfucking scumbags. We're talking about the UN. You know the UN, man? Fuck the United Nations, man. I'm one Sir Grove. I'm one Sir Grove, OSGOE. This is C4CW casting 495 celebrities worldwide. Straight up, man, fuck the United Nations, man. The United Nations is an abusive organization.
Speed camera reported ahead.
Some of you don't know, but I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in a lot of different places. And I know people from a lot of different countries because I've worked in a lot of different areas that a lot of people in the audience don't know I've worked. And so that stated, I know people from the diplomatic community and different organizations and different persons and people in government and different governments. And because there was a time when I was at one particular agency and I had latitude to mingle in the schmooze, so I would go out on the town and I would do the diplomatic cocktail circuit. And yes, I'm talking about actual diplomatic cocktail circuit. Jacket, tie, professional attire. Not always. Sometimes just be fucking khaki shorts, you know? Whatever the occasion. But wherever, you know, there was, an event, different activities. I know the Germans. I know the Australians. I know the French. I know the Lithuanians. I know the Swedes, the Irish, the British. I mean, man, look, I've done a lot of shit. And, yeah, I know a lot of people from a lot of, different African countries who have been involved in diplomacy and the diplomatic community, international affairs. And a lot of countries, man, Europe, Asia. And so in that guy I know, he was in a global affairs program, and he later switched over to international relations. And there was a language barrier when he came to the U.S., and I was a college English honors student. So since I was a college English honors student, I would peer edit his papers. And I've done a lot of research myself, to say the least. And so there was one particular research program that he and I worked on, and it was one that was like a 50-page report. I'm accustomed to very lengthy research assignments, reports. A lot of college, university students are. And so one of the research projects was to map out the UN. So I mapped out the entire United Nations at the time. This is like fucking 15 years ago. So I looked at all the different components, all the different rings, all the different layers, components, subcomponents, organizations, sub-organizations. I looked at the UN forensically, the forensic lens, and I mapped it out, the whole thing, down to a speck. The United Nations is a dirty fucking scum organization. It really is, and I'll explain why. So at 3 minutes and 45, 6, 7 seconds here, sorry, multitasking, driving about 50 miles an hour here, navigating eastern seaboard. And it's night, it's dark, nighttime, and so a lot of people, even at this time in their videos, at 4 minutes and 8, 9, 10 seconds, would be like, but before I tell you this, I can keep up a... Look, man, I'm just getting to the point. So the United Nations, the reason why and how it's dirty is that by its design, by its many layers, given the density of it all, it looks the other way and does not police and enforce laws internationally in the way that it is supposed to, not just in an ideal manner, because that could be said of any police agency, that optimally, ideally, this agency ought to be policing at this level, but it's on this down here level. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that by design, The UN is a fucking fraud organization. It's dressed up, made up to provide and give lip service. Doesn't fucking do the shit that it claims that it does a lot of times. Want an example? Okay, here's one. So, maybe you're not familiar with the Blue Hats. Blue Hats are supposed to be the UN peacekeepers. They're supposed to be the people who represent all these different countries around the world, who go in as an international collective police force and they police the world, is what they're supposed to do. But you see what they do is they rape little girls and boys. They rape women and men, young and old. And they have a history of doing this. Yeah, that's right. The UN peace, air quotes, keepers. They go into these different territories, and among the Blue Hats, there are rapists, rape artists, sexual deviants, sickos, fucking pedophiles, child rapists, rapists in general, sex offenders, molesters, and guess what? They're disguised as UN workers. Yeah, the United Nations. How many arrests do you think there have been in relation to the total number of these offenses that have taken place, have occurred? How many? How many arrests do you think there have been? I'll give you a hint. Here's a clue. How many arrests have there been? Rather, how many arrests have there been in relation to the coup attempt against Donald J. Trump? How many of the conspirators, the perpetrators, the coup plotters, how many have been arrested? I'm pretty sure at this point, as of the time of this recording, 0. Mueller hasn't been arrested. McCabe hasn't been arrested. Robert Mueller, who carried out a fake investigation that was unconstitutional, he hasn't been arrested. And by the way, there are a lot of people in federal prison pretending to be senile. Look at Harvey Weinstein. I'm not saying he's in federal prison, but I'm saying he's already putting on a show. He's already putting on a show. Just for state and local authorities. Look at him. What is he doing? Rolling around in a wheelchair, pretending like, he's out of it and this and that. Of course he is. Of course he doesn't know. Of course he's befuddled and, what's going on? These accusers, how could I, he pretends to be like impotent and shit. And how could he have raped someone if he's impotent? He has like blue Viagra pills and shit like this. Don't take my word for it. Okay? Just check the motherfucking intel, cross-reference it. So this dude, all of a sudden, he's playing the role. Guess who else did that? I'll give you a hint. He came before Harvey Weinstein, and he's not a white Caucasian. No, he's not a white Caucasian, and it's not R. Kelly. Nah, it's not. It's the other one. Starts with B as in Bravo. Okay, I'll just tell you if you don't recall recent case law history. Bill fucking Cosby. Sick-ass motherfucking failed human being. Motherfucking sex offender, sexual deviant, molester, rape artist, rapist, goddamn fucking Bill Cosby. America's air quotes dad? Yeah. Well, if you didn't see, Bill Cosby was playing the role too. Like he was all frail and feeble and, woe is him. He's the victim. He's been locked up and undergoing all this, litigation and, he's been under scrutiny because of all these people who have falsely, air quotes, falsely accused him. Of course he did that shit. Fucking piece of shit. America's dad. Fucking goddamn son of a bitch. What a despicable, reprehensible, detestable, fucking spit on Bill Cosby, motherfucking piece of shit, failed human being. Well, then there's another man who thinks he's superior and thinks that he can get away with shit because he's in Hollywood, so he abuses his power. He treats women like dirt. He's a misogynist and doing all this stuff to these women and then pretending like these women, what is it, how many different continents? Eight different countries or some shit, whatever it is, oh yeah, they're all making up stories, even though they don't know who they are individually, respectively. They only know of their own situation. And as it turns out, all the women are telling the same fucking story in like 8 different countries. You know what I mean? So you just do the math. It's real fucking basic. Like pre-algebra, you know what I'm saying? Pre-calc, So, pre-calculus for those who don't know what pre-calc is. And I'm just saying, like, not to be condescending, I'm just saying some people don't know what pre-calc is because they live in other countries and they're learning English for the first time. I'm talking about simple, basic math, not even pre-calculus. Basic math. 1, 2, 3, ABC. So, Bill Cosby is a vile human being. Failed. Weinstein, did I say Henry? I meant Harvey Weinstein. Harvey? Fucking Weinstein, whatever his first goddamn fucking name is. The piece of shit Hollywood, fucking failed, miserable, actor, producer, whatever, turned fucking rapist. That dude. Okay? So, two men in disguise, posing as Hollywood personas, celebrities. Well, look at these motherfuckers in the UN. Look at these motherfuckers in the UN. They're supposed to be an international police force. They go into these countries and they take advantage of these kids and these men and women. You know, they go into villages and they rape people, man. And they do all this fucked up shit. Look at soldiers in the US military who have done the same. Look at soldiers in the US military, some of them who have become dishonorable, who have been dishonorable, and they've raped in theaters of war. Yeah. I've seen the case studies and files and histories on that. So, the United Nations, how is it policing itself, let alone policing the world? Doesn't really rather seem to be doing any real international policing for the most part. And it doesn't seem to police its own, doesn't seem to police itself. So why does it exist? Well, seems like a lot of encroachment. America's supposed to do this, and America's supposed to do that, as per UN charter rule, this, and that. Well, why would America follow the UN? Why would we even support a piece of fucking crap organization that's just a shill? You know? It's just a fucking shill. It's just made up. It's all artifice. It's just a building with some people that talk about shit. Look how many motherfucking terrorist organizations operate on this planet. List from A to Z. Go online, type list, terrorist organizations, bring up the list, and see how many terrorist organizations operate on this planet. How do these terrorist organizations operate a lot of times with impunity? They seem to be, like Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda's not even dead. Look at Al-Qaeda, everything that happened with 9/11. Al-Qaeda was supposedly behind this and supposedly behind that and supposedly did XYZ 1, 2, 3. But Al-Qaeda's still around. Well, how is it that when you have an international coalition of all these different fucking countries with all representative of all these over 100 military forces, representative of over 100 fucking countries on the planet and their respective intelligence services. How do these terrorist organizations still exist on planet Earth? Huh? How did, with all the satellites we have in space, with all the sensors that we have, with all the agents and assets, all the intelligence that we have, all the fucking drones, all the human intelligence, that's word of mouth for those who don't know, human in the field, eyes on the ground, human senses, human beings sensing, detecting, infiltrating, collecting, analyzing, evaluating, assessing, intel, all the spies, lookouts, moles, infiltrators into these different organizations, terrorist organizations. How is it that these organizations, these fucking terrorist organizations, still operate? That's weird. Boko Haram, El Shabaab, they're in Africa, right? Well, if Africa has militaries for each respective country, and if it has police, law enforcement, if it has any type of crime and punishment, how the fuck is El Shabaab and Boko Haram still operational? How is motherfucking Al-Qaeda still operational after all of our different campaigns against Al-Qaeda? Really? And we have an international coalition, and Al-Qaeda is still operating where? On what continent is Al-Qaeda operating? In which country, which province, which state, which jurisdiction, which motherfucking territory, turf, country, region? Where the fuck is Al-Qaeda? Well, if they're there, somebody in the government has to know where they're located. Well, why do they still exist? Why are they still alive? If we have intel on them, just like we had intel on the Iranian general. We had intel on him. We knew exactly who the fuck he was, and he killed, over 600 Americans and our allies? He's known to have killed over Soleimani. This motherfucker killed over 600 Americans, and we knew the whole time that he was the one behind it. And we only just recently took him out. Really? Why didn't the UN take him out? Why didn't the fucking fags at the UN take him out? You know? Huh? Why not? Because there's some fucking faggot-ass punks. There's some motherfucking punks. I'm not PC. I don't have to fucking be. I speak my mind. Fuck the UN, man. Seriously? The UN? I concluded a long time ago that the UN doesn't need to be destroyed. I don't believe that the UN needs to be destroyed. Nah, the UN could be a good thing. The UN could be a good thing. I just think that the global governments and the leaders of our global governments, respectively, just need to have the people in charge of the UN who are behind the evil and the malevolent acts. They need to be executed legally. That's all I'm saying. I don't think the UN building needs to be destroyed. I don't think that, the UN needs to be wiped out or wiped off the axis of planet Earth. I don't think that it needs to be, attacked by the US or, blown to smithereens legally. No, I just think that the people who are behind the evil at the UN need to be legally executed by governments of this world who are supposed to be policing this planet. Because you see, the thing is, the people at the UN who are behind the fuckery, the facade of the UN, who allow for these types of things to go on, they're terrorists. Yeah, they're terrorists who operate the UN. They're terrorists in disguise. They're dressed up. They have a suit and fucking tie, some type of professional attire, some attire from whatever fucking country they're from. And they're the ones that shield. They're the ones who shield and protect their terrorist friends. Because they're all terrorists. Those who are involved. Anytime someone shields, aids, abets a terrorist, that person's a fucking terrorist. That person is part of that criminal conspiracy, is part of that terrorism. Yeah, is a terrorist. Harboring a terrorist makes you a fucking terrorist, whoever you are who does such. Whoever does such. And that's what the United Nations does, is it protects fucking terrorists. And I just proved it. Because I just explained to you that there's a history of blue hats going into different countries, raping, that's terrorizing. So they're terrorists. Have they been brought to justice? Well, again, let's go back to what I asked you about the coup plotters who plotted against Donald Trump. Have they been arrested, any of them? No, they have not been. They're also domestic terrorists. So what exactly does the United Nations do? What exactly does the United Nations do? It doesn't police itself. It shields, harbors, aids, and abets terrorists. Oh, I know, someone out there wants to point to some other shit that it does that supposedly benefits humanity. Hey, let's consider that. Let's consider your notion that the whoever out there, let's consider that for a moment. Let's evaluate that. Let's say that somewhere in that equation, the UN does something that is considered, air quotes, beneficial to humanity. Okay? Let's set that to the side and let's go back to the terrorism that the United Nations fucking facilitates. And let's talk about how I am going to work and have been working behind the scenes to upend the terrorists at the United fucking Nations. And I absolutely fucking will. Mark my words. I'm one Sir Grove, Alpha Analytical Grove Numeric X.